donated. And now coming back to the topic, which is the art of family communication, we have Mr. Shami Nanda with us today. He's the founder and director of Ahimsagram, and he's passionate about creating a world where one can collaborate with effectiveness and communication. He has been a part of non-violent communication and worked for NVC for the past few years. Thank you for joining us today, Mr. Shami.
You. Uh, so you want to say share more or should I take over?
Yeah, so I would just like to start this. I would just hand it over to you by asking you two things.
Yes.
If you could tell the audience, one, about the principles of nonviolent communication and how we can incorporate that. And second, if you could tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got into this particular field, what interested you. So now I'll hand it over to you.
Great. Okay, that's a good way to start, and that will also tell a lot of the story. So, yeah, just let me set it up. Yeah, so the nonviolent communication is basically something that was started by Marshall Rosenberg, who was a practicing psychologist earlier, and he was trying to look at like certain questions on why do people behave violently, and why do some people, even in extreme situations, are still connected to their humanity, which means they don't behave violently. So yeah, so he was talking about that, and he realized that one of the reasons for us to be violent, which means that when we act in ways that some people's needs are not met, is because we are constantly in this right-wrong thinking and a punishment and reward mentality. Because a lot of our society is organized on that, on the idea of right, wrong, and punishment reward thing. And that creates a lot of problem, because when we tell anybody that they are wrong, immediately they go to the place of fear, because they have experienced wrongness to follow with punishment. And so he said that in that people get into defense and attack, and then everybody starts attacking everybody, and you can't see what the situation is, and instead of that, he came up with another idea, that how do we talk in a ways that we move out of this wrong right thing. So he came up with these 4 things, which are very simple, and you can keep on practicing it. But as you practice, you develop more tools for it, more more capacity for it. So first thing, he talks about the observation, that, and also making the difference between observation and interpretation. So like when I tell somebody that you really cook well, so even though it's a positive worded thing, it's still an interpretation that I think you cook well. But if I point out that the dosa that you made, and you put potatoes with mustard seeds and also some coconut inside it, I really enjoyed that. So what I'm talking about is the observation part. So oftentimes, how can we make this distinction? Or like you were rude to me, or this is an interpretation, or you say when you asked me to leave the room, so that you asked me to leave the room. So what was said or done, which means that like a CCTV camera which sees, which doesn't interpret, which doesn't say that this is right or this is wrong. So how can we, how can we convey things when somebody does? Because in the interpretation, what happens is the idea of wrongness, or a judgment in it. So already when you start going pointing out to somebody that, yeah, you have been lazy, or when you say that, the bed sheet was in the morning, the bed sheet was just, lying on the bed and not folded, so that's more like an observation. But if you say that, yeah, so then moment you go and tell this to somebody, they will be triggered, like, so like someone told me that कम से कम बिस्तर तो फोल्ड चादर तो फोल्ड कर दिया करो, so anyways, but that was more of a request. But so yeah, so this is the difference between observation and interpretation. So how much we can bring in when we want to have a challenging conversation, it's very important that we come up with an observation, because it's easier to find a common ground on observation and very difficult to find a common ground on interpretation, because we can have different ideas about it. So that is first part. The second part, he says that whenever you see something, or you observe something, or you experience something, then you experience a feeling, and it could be a pleasant feeling or it could be an unpleasant feeling. And the feelings could be many, I mean, feelings is much beyond good, bad, and shitty, So there are many feelings that we experience, and feelings are like a feedback system, like which tells us that something is going wrong, something that we need attention to, something that we need to like fuel. It's like when you have a fuel tank and you have the warning that the fuel is getting over, or you get a oil is getting over in the car, and then you get an oil lamp warning, and my scooter I used to have that warning. So if you had that warning, so that is just telling you that oil needs to be put. So which means that and what is that needs to be put? That is the needs, So it directs you to the needs that are met or not met. Like suppose I start enjoying something because some of my needs are met. But if I'm, not enjoying, if I'm feeling disgusted or disappointed or unhappy or angry or frustrated or irritated, because some of the needs are not met. And what is the need? Need is like a life energy. Like for example, every plant, every tree, every being, they need a life energy. And life energy can come in different forms. Like we have puppies which we kind of brought them in the lockdown. So one of them is like Bodhi, and there's another Gulabo, and now they are growing up. And what happens is that you know moment I moment they first, for example, in the morning 8 o'clock is their like 7:30, 8 o'clock is food time. If that is not there, they start coming out and barking, or the moment you go out, and if I'm, and they come and like catch my clothes with their teeth, and they want the food right now, because that is their life energy. If they don't get that, that's fine, that's not okay. So then they want that. And uh, and sometimes when a need is met, they would be so if you give them the food, especially about this dog Bodhi, he starts wagging his tail even if he's sitting and like eating food. His tail starts keeps moving, because he's saying thank you, because his need is met, so he's feeling satiated. So that's the idea of needs. So you have an observation. For example, observation would be the dog gets the food, they see the food, and then they feel excited about it. But before the food comes, they were feeling hungry, and their need was food. And if the food is not coming, then they would be angry, or they would be frustrated or irritated. So we know that if they're irritated, somebody is not giving them the food. And actually, if they're irritated, there's a doormat or there's a shoe they'll find, they'll tear it, when they're not getting food. So we all have this, our needs are very important. So that's the third thing. So, and needs not just of mine and yours. Whenever a conflict happens, it's a lot about needs. And when our needs are not met, we get angry, we are unhappy. And when our needs are met, we say, wow, I really enjoy being with you, and things like that. And there could be needs, could be anything. Needs could be touch, or need could be nourishment, or need could be intimacy, then it could be respect, understanding. So if you go and look for needs charts like CNVC, maybe I'll ask Joel, can you look for CNVC needs inventory and CNVC feelings inventory, and maybe just share the links so people can take it with them. So these are the third thing is the needs. And when you know the needs, when you know your need and our need, for example, I just got a message from Joel that people are there. I was imagining the call starts at 6 o'clock. Of course, I could have come earlier and helped them, be there. So then when this is happening, he has a need for predictability, need for effectiveness. And then when I got there and I was trying to put the ID and also, so I also have a need, in that. I want to be there also. So we have similar needs. But I might have had some other need before, and that's why I was, maybe just 5 minutes to 6, I was signing up. So, and once we know the needs, my need and the other person's needs, especially in a challenging situation, because when we have conflicts, what do we say? We say, I want this, and they say, I want that. Yeah, I can't give you that, and why can't you do this, and why can't you do that? So basically, what we are asking from each other is that, can you help me meet my needs? And how do we ask each other? We can ask by making a demand. We can say, you do this, or we can make a request. And what is a request? What is the nature of a request? So some of the things that Marshall came up with for the request, he brought up three things. First, to make a request which is positive worded, like what you want rather than what you don't want. I was helping one of our team members, and she was saying that I've been earning money and I have kids now, and I want my kids to take over, and they don't listen to me, and when I tell them, they don't help me, and they're not. So I said, what do you tell them? What request do you make? So she said that, oh, the request that I made is ki, I have had too much burden on my shoulders, and now I want you to take over. I said, okay, you have three sons. What is the sense they're going to make out of it? So then I asked her that what is it that she wants. She said, oh, I want them to do the financial part. I said, okay, so you want them to do the accounting? She said, yeah, I'm tired of that. Okay, I said, then why don't you make a request? Then I probed her even more. She said, no, I just don't want them to do the accounting. I want them to contribute to the house. I said, great. So it's still like we're saying, what is specific? I said, how do you want them to contribute? He said, I just tell them that now you've grown up and you're earning money and you take care of the house. I said, again, they don't get it. They're dumb. Imagine everybody that you make a request, everybody in the world is dumb. So then what is the specific request that you're going to make? Because imagine like, oh, for example, if you're a partner and you go and tell, maybe, let me do some gender equation. If you go and tell your boyfriend or a partner or a male partner, then can you be sensitive? And they're going to say, what do you mean by that? Isn't it dumb? So, but you have to imagine that. So that was, more on the lightness I was saying. So so then when I probed her even more, what is it that you want? Then she said, actually, you know what? I have a loan and I'll pay the loan. I want him to pay for the house expenses, like buying the rations. So I said, why don't you then tell them? We made her practice. He said, why don't you tell them that I want you to buy the rations? But it took me like 15 minutes to come to a place without the son in front of her, to come to a understanding of what she wants, what is the specific she wants. And there's still nuances to it. So, and she says that when I go and tell them that, mere ghar pe wazan bahut zyada ho raha hai, mere sir pe, please take that load. And they said, I can't do it. I don't know. So, and what I'm trying to say, one was positive worded, other is specific, and the third is doable. Doable means that even if the person says yes, they should be able to do it, and when they do it, you should be able to know that they have done it. You should be able to know that they have done it. Thank you. By the way, this break was a friend of mine who's also here. So he met my need he brought this mango shake. So that's how, when I get my need is met, I'm happy. So that's why I say thank you. It's like wagging the tail of the dog. So so it was so difficult for her to get something because what she was asking was so vague. But of course, not that when you make a request, somebody will say, jump and say, yeah, I'll do it. But at least they understand what you're asking. And they may say no, and then you engage with it. And the doability part, for example, there's a child and they say, I want to go with you while you're going for shopping. Your mother, is there. The mom says, no, if you come to me, you always make a scene and you always want those chocolates, at the counter, cash counter. He said, no, mom, I won't do it. So will you not do it? Okay, I will not do it. Okay, then you can come with me. So you take the child, and you can imagine what's going to happen when the child, 4 or 5-year-old child, 6-year-old child, they will say, yeah, I want that. They might still lie down on the floor for that. So what is happening is that you signed up for a request which was not doable. So with your partners, with your parents, like, oh, you love me forever, please. I don't think that's doable. What does it mean? Again, you have to understand. Like when you're angry, maybe at the heart, the person might love or not. Or you will talk to me softly, always, Like I was talking to somebody and they said there are two people and they're discussing that, yeah, I know that if I don't do anything, you will not get angry with me, in a relationship. So it's not doable. We don't know what you're going to do. So there are three things, like positive worded, specific, and doable. So as moderator is Shubha, na?
Shubhangi.
Shubhangi, sorry, I was not seeing your full name. So Shubhangi, your first question was principles of NVC, and I brought something. Maybe we can hear people, and then I will go into the next thing about my journey because I've said a lot of things. So let's see how people are receiving it.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to hear other people.
So if members in the audience have any inputs till now, you can drop it in the chat box, or any questions till now.
Yeah, or any reflection also, anything that they felt that they enjoyed learning this.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, please.
So when you were talking about the child's example, in a way, when we are having a conversation with someone elder to us or younger to us, we expect them to understand it. But what
Yeah.
if they are not willing to understand? If you sit with the child and convince him that not throwing tantrums is a really good habit, then he might understand. But what about elders? We can't really advise them to do something.
But first of all, I'll ask you, with the child also, you might have an expectation that they understand, or even you think that they understand. Do you really think that they understand? Do you really think that they will not do something? And when they do something which you don't like, you might call it a tantrum, whereas they're saying, my needs are not met. So you could be judging them for a tantrum. So for me, the first question is that nobody, whether a dog or whether anybody, ever does when they don't really get it, I mean, it's very difficult. Or if they do it, they will do it very grudgingly. They will do it very badly. That. So I would say with anybody, it's the same thing. So if any elder also doesn't want to do it, you need to check with them that why do they don't want to do it? Which of their need is not going to be met by that? And then you find a way where everybody's needs are somewhere working, or whatever your needs at least are also taken care of. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. And if it's you have more things, you can please ask. You don't have to. I mean, I don't believe that just because maybe you're younger, you have to understand me. Yeah. So yeah. So there is a question. Shubhangi, can you read that question?
Yeah. So we have Sister Jaya is saying that often we take for granted the other one is understood.
We just say that oftentimes we take granted that other one is understanding us, or other one should understand us. Is that what?
Yeah, so I guess she's trying to say that often we take for granted the other one is understood. So I guess that we tend to take people for granted when they understand things.
Uh,
Because we know that we have those people in our life who will understand no matter what. So maybe we tend to take them for granted. I guess that's the point.
okay, maybe unless the person is asked if they have any other meaning, they can say it.
Yeah, so Sister
Yeah,
Jaya, is this what you mean? Yeah, this is what she means.
okay, thank you. And there was another question,
Yeah,
another
so
reflection.
yeah, so Sai says that she really liked the point about separating observations from interpretation.
That's very powerful. Separating interpersonal observations, and actually, I can tell you, I have sometimes helped couples, who are in a conflict, and if they are responding to the husband, if you're writing something to them, and they say that this is what I'm writing, or whatever they want to get some feedback, and they say, oh, when you were rude, or when that day, I keep asking them, so what is the observation? They say, I don't remember. So we don't remember the observation, but we remember the story, and we remember the interpretation. But when you go to the other person, they will say, but that's not what I meant. But if you point out that this is what is happening, then our people are still okay. They can hear you. They can find a common ground. Yes, I did that. Things like that. Okay, so there's another message. How do we identify observation from interpretation? Is there a method? Great. That's a useful thing. So one very good way is that, for example, will the CCTV camera show that you are angry, or will the CCTV camera show that you are stamping your feet? Or will the CCTV camera, it will show that you're moving your hands at a certain speed, or it will show that you are pushing somebody, you're touching that, person. For example, I'll give you a very good example. This guy, George Floyd, this person who was killed in US. So imagine the whole story if we didn't have that CCTV footage. You can imagine if we only had the version from the police, would the story been same? It would have been a big difference. And then people collated the other cameras and put it together. So what we got, the observation where the woman who's experienced it there, they're saying if somebody had said it, they, oh, he's a cocaine addict, or he was caught in that, and that's all we would have heard. So yeah, so try to see, ki does it, that's, as, and it's not easy actually. And so you need to keep coming more and more towards that. And you will see that's itself is going to make a big difference. So if you point out to your partner or to anybody that, you are like that, or you can point out. And that doesn't mean that we don't interpret. Let me clarify something. Because I think, can you mute somebody? Maybe. Yeah.
I guess there is some disturbance. So if all of you could please mute yourself.
Yeah. So when you want to speak, you can unmute.
Yeah.
So yeah. So one thing I want to say, a lot of people, when they learn nonviolent communication, they get excited and they say, oh, that's an interpretation. That's a judgment. That as if there should be, suddenly we want a world where there is no interpretation. Even though we don't stop doing interpretations. So which means that, why I say that, because if I come and tell you that you made a wonderful meal, or we say you are a very caring person, that is also an interpretation. In fact, that's also a judgment, that in a way that you are a good person, you're caring, you're very sensitive, But if I say that when I was not well and you drove 10 kilometers and bring fruits to me, I enjoyed your care. So that time I'm bringing the observation. So it's not about saying that don't use interpretation, but we should be aware that this is an interpretation. So it's about the discernment. I can say, oh, when I saw you this, I did interpret that, you were a cool guy or you were a dumb guy, or he's like this. But I'm saying we will not leave interpretations tomorrow, but we can educate ourselves on the difference between it. So I guess we can take one more question and then we come back to the next point. And then we will take up open things and people can still bring in these same questions. Okay, do people communicate differently their needs? Actually, I'm enjoying these questions. So I guess people have all kinds of creative ways to communicate their needs. So anything that is happening in this world is people's way to communicate their needs. So even when a violence happens, people are just letting you know that that's what they need. But unfortunately, nobody hears them. Nobody hears their needs. That's the sad part. So and they use the best tools that they know, what their childhood has taught them, what they have learned. And that's how they communicate their needs. But if you shout at somebody and ask your needs, I mean, the chances are much lower than when you really hear their needs also and try to find a solution where everybody's needs matter. Great. So how do we ensure that even our observation are received positively? For instance, how do we convey something is slightly wrong with the food without sounding as if we were complaining? Great. So yeah, Sai has a very good question. It doesn't mean that moment we learn and we start being dishonest. We start saying that your food is nice, or the way you were speaking to the child was very nice, so that doesn't mean that. So now that's a question. So observation helps us in that. So if, first of all, I can tell you a story in our organization. One day somebody made a curry, and this girl had made a lot of effort because she made a special curry using green mangoes, raw mangoes, kacha aam. And or something that's something her mother makes, something she has made in Agra in her family. That's how they make it there. And she brought it there, and then somebody who's from here in Jaipur, they said, itni khatti bana di, like you made it so sour. And the moment I saw that, and this girl who had taken so much effort, I said, oh my God, how is she going to now receive it? And her face changed. So I turned to this woman who had said this comment. So I said, oh, Bua ji, to aapke ghar mein kya kam khatti banti hai? वो कहती है हाँ हमारे घर में कम खट्टी बनती है. मैंने कहा ओह तो आपके घर में कम खट्टी बनती है. Then she said, oh भैया आपने बचा लिया मुझे तो आज, because she was getting into a problem, you know. So yeah, so how do you convey? So observations, you know, and also taking responsibility of it. And when you say that you know that if you say the food is something wrong with the food, then you can point out, and point out in a way that also connected to your needs. You can say I want less salt, you know, or the recipe that I know is like this, or if it's running a cafe, and so the recipe that we have agreed and decided is different from that, you know. And what happens when it's different from that? Oh, when you make it like that, the people who are coming are expecting that thing. Or it's for example chilies, you know, I never say कि इसमें मिर्ची कम है या मिर्ची ज़्यादा है, you know. I've just taken it out of my system. I just say, oh, for me it's more hot, for me the salt is less or more. So who had asked this question, this about the that was Sai.
Sai,
So,
yeah.
Sai, did you get something out of that? So I'm just enjoying. I've just shared one part, and I'm getting the questions.
We
And
have more responses as well.
yeah. So let's see. Let's ask people. It's very difficult now. Get feedback. Is it okay? Does anybody feel that I should share more things before we go, or are they okay? Maybe you can say in the chat yes or no, or yes, yes. Is anybody seeing value in the way we are going right now? When I'm taking up questions after questions, how many people are getting their learning? Just maybe, okay.
I can see an ample amount of yeses
I
in the
think that's
chat.
enough. I mean, 3 is also enough for me. Don't worry. That's okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to go totally haywire. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. So yeah, still I think that's enough. I'll have to scroll up for the
Yeah, but
questions.
I would like to ask you one thing. There's this question that Sister Jaya asked, and the reason I could interpret it correctly is because
Yes.
even I feel that way. And I guess that was the reason, because I understood what she was trying to say. So she meant that we often tend to take people for granted in our lives who
Yeah.
we know will be there at every step. And because we know that they are close to us and they will be there in our lives no matter what, so it's okay if we take them for granted, because even if they're taken for granted, if we need help they will be there. So how can we avoid that?
But you want to avoid that because in the end, the other people will one day say, I was taken for granted. So I think the first thing itself is don't take anybody for granted. And don't think that people will be there in your life no matter what. That's a non-doable request. You know, forget about it. If you have, I don't want to, it's not such a good example. If somebody gets corona, and the rule is that the government earlier it was very strict, you know, no home quarantine also. So they might still be there in their heart, you know. It's not that. But so many times, you know. So yeah, so you can basically what the question Shubhangi you're asking is that basically when you say that you will be there in my life no matter what, am I checking with you first? That's the question. Which means that have you made an agreement? And that's why, for example, in a very, you know, in lots of wedding ceremonies, they say no matter what, I'll be there for you. You know, till death do us part. You know, you say we do that. And sometimes it doesn't happen. And then when that doesn't happen, rather than going on with it, you can say, hey, we made this agreement. This is not working out. Let's try to make another agreement now. But if you're attached to it, there are a lot of people who suffer their lives and say, oh, ab to bas kar liya hai zindagi bhar, ab to ye karna hi padega. You know, they suffer their life. Some people work on their life like that, that I don't want to give up so soon. So, but I think it's more of an agreement. You should see it as an agreement and take consent from them that are they also okay. And a part of the agreement is that when the agreement is not kept, how do we modify the agreement? So there were more questions. I'm really enjoying it. Let's see how fast I can go with this rapid fire round.
Yes.
But how do we observe that the observers receive positively? Maybe you can help Shubhangi. Mother has a question.
Yeah,
Janvi says,
Janvi's mother has a question. I'll read it out for you so it's easier.
thank you.
So Janvi's mother says that what if interpretation doesn't match with observation? Then how do we understand the
Yeah, it
people?
will never match because everybody will interpret it differently. Like for example, clothes. Clothes that somebody is wearing. Public display of affection. Somebody say, "Oh, how rude," and somebody might say, "That's so cool." So in most things, so the interpretation will never match, but the observation you can come to say, "Yeah, this happened." You know, that's my answer. Let's go to the next one.
So Alice says that can the family appreciate the effort put in even if the wife does not like cooking, but she's doing it for the family. She's putting in that much effort.
Yeah, so can the family appreciate the effort put in even if
Yeah.
the wife does not like cooking? Okay, so of course, why? Because it's a very complex question. Because should I pay attention to the why the wife is going on cooking if she doesn't like? But of course, she may not like it, but she does it because she cares for the people. I may not have a preference for it, but I care for people, and that's why I do it. At the same time, I would want to be acknowledged that even though the food that I made was one day bad, or maybe every day it's not good, but whatever I'm doing it, but people can still see that, yeah, you did put that effort. So, for example, in our team, if somebody, so one day one person was cooking something, and she was doing other things also, and the food that making, she was doing cookies or something, and they got burnt, and she felt so bad. I said, yeah, but that's okay. Out of you that day, them customers also came, clients, and this also came, and the cafe was also on, and I said, you were doing 5 things, and out of which if one goes wrong, that's a pretty good score. So, which means I'm also acknowledging that what else she was doing. So I guess gratitude, what the topic that is brought here is gratitude. That is something that we all want, and that is something that we are all very conducive in giving. So yeah, there is never any less, gratitude. Just I do cooking, and if I put cashew paste, there is you can never need to stop. You can put whenever you want. You can put it. Cashew paste. Even you put rajma, you could put cashew paste. In pizza, you put cashew paste. Fine. So gratitude on anything is fine. So in fact, it is wanted. So yeah, so that would make a big difference. And when Alice is asking, maybe her question is coming from that, I don't know what is her position or somebody else, that she sees as constantly putting effort as not being receiving the gratitude. Is that true, Alice? Are you seeing somebody who's putting effort and you think they don't get enough gratitude? Okay, we'll wait for her in some time,
Yeah.
but let's go ahead.
Yes. She says yes.
She says yes. So yeah, so now basically I'll give you another feedback. If it is for you or if it's for anybody else, what you can need to make a request, and the request could even be, uh, yeah, for example, I wanted to know if what I'm doing right now is making sense. So I said, can we have a feedback from people in yes or no? I didn't say who likes. Can somebody tell how what I'm doing is good, is sounds like, because that's too complex. I need a very specific question. I said, can people say in yes or no, or just say yes if they like? I didn't even say if you don't like, don't say no. I'm not interested in that right now. But I just wanted some data. So how can you bring in that family, the idea of gratitude?
Sorry to interrupt, sir, but we will be also opening questions for the audience.
Yeah,
And so, if right now you could tell them about your journey a little more,
sure,
because we
sure.
don't have much time on our hands.
Okay. Wow. So amazing. I wish. So I'll make a request to you. In the end,
Yeah.
you please copy all this chat, and there's such amazing
Yes,
questions.
I have the questions with myself. Don't worry about that.
Good.
We will address the questions towards
Yeah.
the end, all the audience
And we
questions.
may not also address all the questions, but that's okay.
That's the
So
important part.
let me go on to my journey. Thank you, because I get excited and I say, so it's also important for us to see the larger picture.
Everything that you were saying sounded so exciting that even I forgot about the
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah. So for me, these calls are actually very inspiring for myself itself.
Yeah.
So let's talk about my journey. So I grew up in Jaipur, and then I studied in Delhi. I hear Pramila saying, please answer my question. So let me just see what is Pramila's question. I don't mind taking a break. what if the marriage comes to an end? From one side, say husband says that I know I'm no more committed to you. Then what is the role of a wife? So let's hold it, Pramila, and let's see we find time because this will take a little more depth. So just hold it for now. But we can find some other way, or you can even take my number, and then there could be other ways also to respond later on.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about my journey. So I grew up in Jaipur. Then for college, I went to Delhi, and then I got into filmmaking, documentaries, and all. And all along, as a kid also, I would like to. My mother died when I was passed away when I was in class 10, and then I would go to the neighbors' houses, and and they would happily feed me. So for me, community was a big part of my growing up. I could go to any house on my street, and have food there, and to my friends' homes and all. And, and then, and I would, whenever I see any injustice, it would disturb me, you know. So that was also something. It always came to me about fairness, that respecting people, dignity. These values were very important for me. And then I studied in college, and there I got into environmental issues, sustainability, these questions, and protesting against some things like that. So that was also going on, and then I got into documentary filmmaking, and then I went to the Film Institute, and I studied cinematography there. And while I was there, there were a lot of protests and strikes and about fee hikes and privatization. So I was part of that also. And then I decided to come to Jaipur because I didn't want to just jump into Bombay film industry because it was not kind of aligned to my ideas. And there I was married then, and my partner, we started a film society there. We wanted to bring in cinema to us, our own city. And so all that I was doing, and then somehow my relationship kind of went through a difficult time, and we decided to separate. Uh, and when that was happening, it was not easy because I was never used to dealing with conflict. Just as we are never taught that we are told that there is a happy ending, but we are not told what happens after the happy ending, you know. And when that happens, how do we make that happy? So we don't know that. In fact, as a kid, I used to, watch a film on Sundays. It would come on Doordarshan. And when I saw the end, when all the anxiety was solved and the film would end, I would feel so sad. I said, now I want to see, because all along I was stressed that the hero can't meet them and this challenge is happening. So I really wanted to see the life after that happy ending, what happens after the end. And there is a person called Wendell Berry who says that there is no happy marriage unless you make it to be, because you have to constantly work on it. So so I also went through this difficult time, and then while I was in Bombay, I was working in the film shoots there, and I was also doing my freelance work. But one day I decided, let me try some very typical Bollywood things and how they work in big scale. And I saw that, and it was not very impressive for me. I went and worked on some ads, and one ad was like Coca-Cola ad, one ad was of some pesticide, or I worked for 1 month, and 4 or 5 things I must have done must be very toxic, for the not very great for the world, and I didn't feel good about it even if I was getting money. So then that was also not exciting for me. So I was doing some documentaries and was happy with that. At the same time, I was living in Bombay and Goregaon, and then I read books by from Shikshantar. There's an organization in Udaipur, and they were working on sustainability, community building, unschooling. And when I saw that, I learned about something called learning societies. That how can you make a society which takes responsibility of learning. And I read about some in Australia. There were some learning parks where people started doing projects in the park for learning. And I got excited. And when I was living in Bombay, I approached my neighborhood friends because they were all mostly from Film Institute, a lot of them. So we started a Sunday club. We would go to Goregaon, RA area, and go for walks. And this was like 15 years, 12, 13, 14 years ago. I really enjoyed that. But while I was there in Bombay, I also developed asthma kind of symptoms. But I used to smoke cigarettes that time. When I was in those shoots that I went to, that's the way, when I was working in those shoots, that's where I developed those systems. Because one is that uh, I was not happy doing what I was doing. I was not able to express what I wanted to express. So, and plus the food that I was eating was not very healthy, very oily, a lot of non-veg, and I would not even think of it. Or like the breakfast would be keema pav. So, that would be have trans fats. And now I studied about it. Earlier I didn't know. It was normal life. And then I got the inhaler. And then I said, no, I don't want to use the inhaler. Then if I don't want to use the inhaler, what do I do? Then I came across people. There's one Vinita Mansata who has a publishing house in Calcutta called Other India Press. No, Earth Care Books, which is one of the amazing publishing houses in India, which has alternate books coming out from there in Calcutta. So she taught me about self-healing, that how body is healing itself, and about fasting. So even though I was getting asthma attacks, and when I took the inhaler, I realized that I was getting weaker. So then I said, no, I want to work on my other ways. So I want to get rid of this. I also got introduced to the Health Awareness Center in Mumbai, Vijaya Venkatji. And so that also inspired me. So all these things, I got into self-healing. And I got into community building. I was already working. Then I moved out of Bombay, spending time with Shikshantar a lot, and also taking care of my health, visiting farms, changing my food, stopping all animal products. So then my food totally changed, like steaming the foods and having it. So certain principles change. And then from that, I also got into, I said, okay, now I worked on the food, but my emotions are still not worked out. So I still had problems with my divorce. Then I came across nonviolent communication around 7, 8 years ago. And then I got more and more into it. And got excited that, oh, wow, we can have a relationship where we can be honest and we can also be caring. So that has been going on for the last 7, 8 years. And then I came across the other thing called sociocracy, which was how do we make organizations which work with consent kind of a thing, where we work as an ecosystem or a self-operating system. And while doing that, I thought, okay, let me create an organization where we practice this. So I invited people in Jaipur. I took up a small house on rent. I said, we will live together, we will cook together, and all our fights together. We will organize ourselves. We will run a business of doing NVC workshops, and we will learn with collaboration. Because all other systems are running with control and command, like a pyramid structure of a boss and going down. So how can we run like our body as an ecosystem? How can, for example, how can a company be where if your hand goes in the fire, you immediately move? You don't have to ask the boss of the thing that should I remove. So then I created Ahimsagram last 4 years ago. And we are now around 8 to 10 people here. And we are offering sustainable, healthy, wellness inspiring foods. We are practicing a system called holacracy. We integrate NVC in it. For example, yesterday somebody was sharing and they were having problems with their home. So we discussed 4 hours. We didn't do other work. We talked about that, even though we are a business. And now I want to show how can we set up high integrity ethical businesses. And that's what I'm working on. And and that's what our Instagram is doing right now. And we are working on wellness meals, and we provide meals at homes. We also do some catering sometimes. And this is just, I'm doing a business to run and show how we can run collaboration. And now other part we are working is on knowledge sharing. And the knowledge sharing is through nonviolent communication and self-management. So if anybody wants to set up a company where you work with collaboration, where you don't want to just chill out on people and shout, and of course you might get angry or things like that, but how do we collaborate? So I'm working on self-management and also sustainable food practices. So in brief, that has been my journey. And somebody requested my number. Joel, maybe can you put it there?
Yeah, so for people who would want to dive deeper into this topic, you can share your point of contact with them and you can drop that in the chat.
And you can see our website. It's called ahimsagram.in. We have an Instagram page and a Facebook page. By the name, we work with the people come in the team here. All those you have learned, which you have learned outside, it's actually you learn something totally different here. We work with collaboration. We have our roles, and then we want to have separation between the role and the soul. And yeah, I mean, it's like wonderful. There is a there is a trend going on in the world where we want to create purpose-led organization, and our purpose is how human beings can get in touch with their power while doing sustainable, regenerative businesses and something like that. So yeah, so this is where journey was a long one. So
It was a
so
very inspiring journey, sir. And just before we move to the audience questions, there's this very special thing that we're going to do today. So we will be taking a virtual picture of the virtual family that is here with us today, because
great.
most of the people in the audience are attending this session with their parents. So I would invite all of you to please switch on your cameras and be a part of this picture. So if you can take the next 2 to 3 minutes, switch on your cameras, and then we can take a virtual picture. And then after that, we will move to the audience questions.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. It's a really cool idea. So this idea is also actually about the needs, because our need is that we want to like show that how the community is there. So, but Shubhangi didn't say that please keep your cameras on all the time. So she might be doing other things, but why not just for now for 2 minutes she brought the people here. So that's great. So there are three screens, three grids. You'll take all
Yeah,
three.
we'll take all
So
three. I
you
can
guys,
see my first grid is full, and I can see some parents as well, which is a very nice sight to see.
that's great. And we should jump in very soon on the idea of parenting and children and things like that,
Yes. So
about families. That's very positive that families also here,
I would
because
request the people who haven't switched it on, if you can. We'll wait just next 2 minutes to wait for people to switch on their
okay,
cameras, and then we can proceed with the screenshot.
yeah, great. So while we wait, yeah, I'm just preparing people for the next part, and you can tell us when you're ready, Shubhangi.
Yes, and feel free to keep the slides coming.
So yeah, so what I was saying, what did you say?
There is some disturbance in the background. If you could please mute yourself.
Wow, so amazing to see so many faces,
Yes.
and that we are all there to change our lives, and very positive. Thanks to all of you for organizing this course also, and yeah.
I have my dad here as well, so he'll join me also. Then we can
Okay.
take a picture.
Yeah, you're waiting for him. Great. Yeah, let me go to the different pictures of the grid and see all the people.
So we are ready for the screenshot. Keep the smiles coming. Are we done, Celeste? It's done? Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for being a part of this virtual picture. We will be uploading this on our page, and you will also receive this picture along with the mail. So don't worry about receiving the picture. And now we can move on to the audience questions. Sir, you are on mute. Your microphone is off.
So one of our focus has been on building families. Am I right, Joel? What, how we talk? The topic was families that matter. That was you were talking about. So yeah, so for me, family, for example, I would say that as human beings, our one of our primal needs is belonging and togetherness. So we've always lived in groups where, as humans, it's very difficult for us to live alone. So we've always been with people. So family or a community is an arrangement where human beings come together to organize themselves and to meet their needs for survival, to emotional needs, to spiritual needs. So that's what families are meant for also. And family is one of the strategies. Family is not the only strategy. So how can we create, for me, if I see from the space of NVC, how can we create families where everybody's needs are seen and they matter and we grow together? So, and when we have challenges, how can we be honest? I mean, I can imagine if I ask parents also that would you want your child to just appease you, or would you want your child to have safety where they can be honest? How many parents would want that? You can write in the chat. And same way, how many children here, young people, or would want to value honesty and to feel safe where they can be open to their parents? And there's one need from, and this is apart from honesty, is like safety also. So how many of you would want safety for honesty? You know, yeah, that's what basically I'm just putting all this question as the same question. And so the other part of the family part is that uh, how can we have honesty with care? That's a even more challenging thing. You know, the threshold becomes higher that I can be honest. And how can NVC help us in becoming honest with care? So which means that the principle here is that each of us, yeah, thank you, I'm enjoying the yeses coming in the joy for honesty and, you know, the desire for honesty. So if we all want that, what is it that we can do to make our spaces more honest? What are dialogues more honest? And also, I would want you to not forget that while we are trying honesty, even though we are also trying to have care and integrate the two. Because my honest expression could be that, yeah, I hate you, you know, that's, and I'm being honest. But how do I say in a way that what is impacting me? And the answer is again, the observation, what happened between us, how do I feel about it, what are my needs, and then what is my request. And same way, when the other person, when you're talking about yourself, you look at the other person also. Yeah, I see this observation, or I can imagine that you saw this observation. I can sense that you feel this because you need this, because you may have this request. So how can we have that? So whenever a challenge happens, we try to look at observations. You know? We try to speak the observations. Even if we have an interpretation, we say, "Mom, this is, you know, this is so boring. You know, what you're asking me to do." But you can also bring up, "This is what you're asking me to do," and that's it has a consequence. You know, something like that. So that's also there. So one is the observation. Then how do we speak in the language of feelings also, rather than right and wrong? That you did this wrong, and that's what the blame is, and things like that. And from there, how do we move to this space of observations, feelings, needs, and requests? So maybe what we can do, we can take up questions, and I can imagine there are a lot of people, and I'm happy about that. So we might pick up one or two questions and take examples, and from there, others will learn. So right now, maybe I want to ask many people because I can ask Joel and Shubhangi, who are the hosts, and of course, anybody. First, I'll ask you, how does that sound? I mean, is it okay?
That sounds okay, but we also have some questions in the chat box. So is it okay if we address them first, and then after that, if we
Yes.
have more
Can you help
questions?
me? Can you read those questions
Yes,
one by
I'll
one?
read those questions. And as you mentioned about, before reading those questions, as you mentioned about honesty, a lot of times people say that you're being too honest, you're being too straightforward.
Hmm.
So what is that too honest
So
and too?
then what they mean is that you're honest, but I don't receive your care in that.
Yeah.
Which means that you're too honest and you're just sharing your needs and my needs are not being heard. You know, I mean, it could mean anything. I don't know. But each time but they are definitely saying that they have some unmet needs in the way you are being honest. They might say the way you're being honest sounds like blame to me. So that's what they're implying. So one thing, try to keep practicing. Try to see what is important for the people behind the words they are using.
Yes.
You know, in our team member who works with our team, and somebody asked her something and she just was silent. So then we guessed. We said, "Oh, so are you silent because you are scared to respond?" Things like that. You know, we had to do all that things. So does that help you? This
Yeah, that helped me.
thank you.
So we could answer Pramila's question also. Of a wife. does she still continue communication, or does she go silent, as there is no feeling of commitment? So on what basis should a relationship continue or live throughout because of a child?
So I can tell you something that I don't know. There's no one answer. You will have to figure out your answer, But there's one line by Miki Kashtan that there is no decision which does not have an unmet need, which means that whatever you do, there will be another unmet need. There is no perfect decision. You need to actually. There's a very nice word, I would say. This is called triage. What I understood from triage. Is there anybody who's a medical doctor here who understands this word triage? So you can check in the dictionary, but I think it comes from the medical language. Yes, priority. Thank you, Ronald. So like if you are a doctor and you have a heart patient and who is getting almost like a heart attack, and you have another patient who has a fracture, and they are both in pain. So if you go to one place, the other person won't be happy, but you prioritize. So we always have to make choices where all our needs will not going to be met. So we prioritize. Okay, let it go. We can come to this later. So yeah. So in the question that you're saying that if the one person is not committed, then everything has a cost. If you still go on, what is your unmet need in that? You might still have okay. You want peace of mind for the child, and you do that for that. But you can be unhappy because you're not getting the intimacy or the love or affection. Or if you move out, maybe then people will say, oh, what kind of a woman she was, she just left the husband, there could be stigma. Or some people might say, that's so cool, like you are making your own life. If you move out, they're going to be challenged. But maybe then when you start your own life, maybe you create some another new world, we don't know. So you have to take a call that which need is what is, and actually it's one very good way to this look at is that look at your purpose in life, look at the values that are important for you and make your decisions based on those value and purpose, not on just on the needs. Because if for example in the lockdown we have puppies we brought here in the house, and somebody said, why are you bringing those puppies? Because we value that everybody should have care, and whatever bit we can do, we brought them, even though it's more work. So you have to see which needs that you want to prioritize, which needs you don't want to prioritize. But I would say, rather than looking at one right or wrong solution, try to just see every decision that you make, which needs are met and which needs are not met. And then it will help you decide. That's what I can say. Let's move on.
Yes, so we have a question from
And
Shrishti.
before you, Shubhangi, move on, let me say, so if I've responded to somebody and my question is that, did it help you? Please write down after that. And even though I may not be able to respond more, and I've shared my number. Yeah, go ahead, Shubhangi.
Yeah, there's a question from Shrishti. And Shrishti, if you're comfortable, then you can unmute yourself and ask the question.
Hi. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So my question was basically if someone, we can, it's related to the first point that you mentioned about observation and interpretation. So we can communicate our observation to the other person. But what if someone is saying, someone is communicating something in a hurtful manner? How do we take it? And then, because at the instant response is to maybe feel hurtful and react very quickly. But how do we let it sink in and then think and then immediately, just wait for some time and then respond positively or not become very reactive to that?
So quick answer, I would tell you that you can learn more of NVC, and that is, and you can learn other things also in the world. You can learn mindfulness and things like that. But you can go to this book called Language of Life by Marshall Rosenberg. And in India, if you get it, there's a publishing house called Banyan Tree. You can search, find their number, and get this book from them. That is one. Then you can also go to YouTube, and there are lots of Marshall's videos. And for others who don't know, you can go to a place called NVC Academy where you can pay, you can do a lot of things. So I'm saying you are asking for a much bigger, deeper question. So you can start your journey with NVC now. And because the way I share nonviolent communication, I don't share it as somebody who has the answers, but I share with you a process which helps you find your own answers. So I'm opening a window for you, but I can give you enough exciting points which will make you feel positive that, okay, there is a way. So can you just remind me a question again? I just...
how to not react to a very hurtful comment.
in a way that
Instead,
you
think
don't hurt
through
another
it.
person. Yeah.
Yes.
So you have to see what is hurting you. That's a very complex question and a very powerful question also. So what is hurting you? Is the hurt inside you, or is the hurt coming from outside? Sometimes if I'm triggered by something that I've experienced authority and I'm triggered with that, and whenever anything comes like that, I get triggered very fast. Some dialogues, if suppose maybe you had a relationship which was not very good with your father, and the father used to say a certain word, and if the same word your partner says, then the hurt can be even more. And suddenly he says, but maine to itna sahi bola tha, why did you get so angry? Because you already have that pain. And the other is that if you want to express, so basically I would say go by the simple rule. You have to practice a lot, but the first thing is that when you say, how do you say it? Do you say an observation first, or do you say your interpretation or a blame? If you're going to say your blame, you're going to get into trouble. That's the first thing. But if you bring in the observation, then the chances are less for the conflict to kind of exaggerate. And then rather than saying a blame on the other person, wrongness of you did this, and you bring it to yourself that this is what I saw, this is what I experienced, and this is what I need. And when I need this, can you do this? Are you willing to do this? So I can meet my need, which means what strategy you want for other person to do so you can meet your need. So the chances in this, because what happens is normally is that you hear an attack, then you again attack, then you get defend, either you just, then you get attacked. Then, one of the NBC trainers once said very nice line that we are very good soap opera dialogue writers. Do you understand? Like, we are very good like serial K dialogue writers. We are very good Sasbo dialogue writers. We are very good all kinds of. So immediately our mind works like this. If I did this, why did you do that? You should have done it. Nobody cares for me. So we have these set dialogues, and they are all coming from a place of fear that I'm alone. My needs will not be met. So yeah, so this is one of the templates. Did you get something valuable, Srishti? I mean, something.
Yes, definitely. So it's very helpful. I would just want you to repeat the name of the author once again. Language of Life by
Marshall B. Rosenberg.
Okay, yeah.
And
Okay,
do you have email addresses of people so you can send them? If I give you a document, can you send it to people, Joel, later? So I'll share some links to you.
Yes,
Please
sure. Yeah.
Yes,
follow
we
with
can
me.
forward the
So
material.
that you can forward them to people,
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So the next question is from Sonali. Sonali, if you could unmute yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, am I audible, Shami?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I was asking, sometimes what happens, like the way you were talking about, like, many people have needs, and sometimes it gets very difficult, like I too have a need, and let's suppose someone, like, let's say my parent also have a need with me, and we are not on the same page because we are having different needs from each other in a same situation, and then we keep on having conversations after conversation, but we don't come to a conclusion. uh, mm, One of my needs is also to be with my parents, but it's very difficult to have that conversation anymore. So in that case, what should we do? Because it's not one sided, right? Maybe I can try to have a non-violence communication, but maybe they are not. So in that case, it's very fishy.
Sorry to interrupt, but there is some background disturbance. Except Sonali, could you all please mute yourself?
I think it's coming from Sonali's computer. Okay.
No.
So Sonali, you said that you have a need and your parents have a need. Okay. Can you unmute yourself, Sonali?
Yeah.
So what is, you said, I want to make a distinction between need and strategy. So
Okay.
need is a very universal thing. A need does not involve a person, the need doesn't involve a location, these don't involve. So a need is basically when more universal, like a need for care, but that doesn't mean I have a need for a pizza or I have a need for a nice meal. So even a meal is, I'm hungry and of course I need food. Meal is fine.
Yeah.
But whether I can have a chola bhatura or I can have potatoes or I can have
It's
a,
a it's a request if you could please mute yourself. Thank you. Celeste, could you please mute wherever the noise is coming from? Yeah, I guess it's better now.
yeah. So, yeah, so the difference between need and strategy. So
Okay.
basically, and whenever somebody wants, like Sonali, are you there?
Yeah.
So, what do you want, and what is your need? What you call your need, and what do you call your parents' need? Can you say just the need?
So for a same, my parents feel that it's their need to fulfill their responsibility being my parent. Like in an Indian society, in a middle class society, they feel it is their need or it is their responsibility to like give us good education, to see
Okay.
us getting married, right?
Okay. So basically, these are all strategies. Getting married, they
Okay.
want to see education. So the need behind is they want you to be safe. Am I right?
Yes.
How does it sound? You felt good when you said safe.
Yes.
So word safe is fine. But if you say you will be safe if you come back home at 8 o'clock, you will be safe if you only stay in a PG with the only girls there.
Yeah.
But you will be safe if you work in our city only. You don't go out of the town.
Yeah.
So now they are joining a strategy with the need. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And what is your need?
Uh, my
You,
need to have my own liberty, maybe.
thank you. I'm glad that you talked about your need rather than your strategy.
Yeah.
So I guess you understand your needs better than your parents' needs.
Yeah,
So
maybe
you need
that's why we are not on the same page, I guess.
Yeah. So basically, you are confusing the strategy and this. So
Yeah.
if you take this safety and uh, stay there or something, so you so you can tell your parents that I enjoy that you like my safety. Am I right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So you are on the common ground on the need. There is no harm if they want safety. The problem
Mhm.
starts happening when they want safety in a certain way.
Exactly.
So there is no clash in the need. So you can tell them gratitude for the need. You can say, thanks, mom and dad, or whatever, that you really want me to be safe.
Yeah.
Now, so half the problem is actually at least solved that their intention is to okay care of. And because when parents say, tum samajhte nahi ho main, actually
Yeah.
they want you to samjho in two ways. One, they want you to samjho that you understand their needs and they are nice people who care for you.
Mhm.
Second, they want you to understand कि देखो हमने बाल सफेद नहीं कर लिए, हमारी नीड ऐसे ही पूरी होती है तो यही करो.
True.
That you don't agree. So you
Yeah.
can make a distinction. Hey, mom, I love your need for safety. Please, 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 please do that. But I'm not okay with you want safety in a certain way because I have a need for liberty. And by being at home and, not doing other things, it takes away my need for liberty. And, in the liberty, there's a
Yeah.
hidden need. Because if you have liberty, you can go out and work, you can be creative, you can contribute to the world. So if you contribute to the world, you are able to meet the purpose of your life. So basically, why do you get so frustrated? Because this decision is going to take you away from your whole idea, purpose, and meaning of being who you are. So that's
Exactly.
why you get so triggered. So now your job is how to convey to your parents that when I say that, I want to go out because I want to lead a purposeful life and because I want to have joy and happiness, because I want to be satisfied. So if they can understand this, if you can show this connection to them, so when they know that they maybe along with safety, they also want your happiness actually.
Yeah.
And sometimes parents also want that they want to be safe after that because हम हमारी उम्र होगी तो तुम हमें संभालोगे ना. But if you just do this exploration and bhatkoing thing, then
Yeah.
who's going to take care of us? So maybe if you can say that if I find my meaning and purpose, I will also find a way to sustain myself. And that's why my struggle is there. And I want to care for you. So you have to focus on their need. Okay. Put the light on their need and make them understand that you also care for their need. And more you do that, but if you say, I don't get anything that you say, then they are very much disturbed. But if so a lot of parents here, I want to ask the parents here that if your child, even if the child doesn't agree with you and comes and tells you that, Mom, thank you for caring for my safety, and I don't agree with how you do it, will that still be better than what say that the whole thing no? How many parents would enjoy that? Let's hear, in chat responses they can say. That your child comes and tells you that I don't like what you are asking me to do, but I like the fact that you care for me. Yes. Yeah. So great. So, and similarly, I would, and same way the parents can say, when you think of going outside the town and working in this job and going to, going to Jharkhand maybe or anywhere, or, I'm no judgment for any place, but if you're going there and you're living in Bombay, I understand that you want to have a meaningful life, and I love that, but I'm not sure that this is the best strategy, or you can say that I know you want meaning and purpose, but I also want you to be safe. So you guys are not able to find a strategy which integrates these needs, but there is no competition in the needs. The competition is in the strategies. So Sonali, did this help you?
Yeah, I'm actually feeling much better after hearing that, because this is the basic conversation which we are having from so long, and I have started giving silent treatment to my family because I think if I'll say something, they now will get hurt maybe. So I have stopped saying, and that is also hurtful to them. So maybe I'll try to have
Yeah. So
conversations.
we have a group called Being Me Loving You on NVC, like sharing and peer support group.
Mhm.
If anybody of you wants to join, please message me on my WhatsApp number, and then I'll add you there, where we keep having these discussions. So yeah, let's take another question,
Uh,
Shubhangi.
so Father Prashant has a question. If you could unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. How do we create an atmosphere in the family where there's freedom to dissent and yet feel accepted?
That's very beautiful. And we are working at our Instagram with this only, that how do we value all voices? Yeah, that's we need to see certain things, certain values, that every, you know, since and you said you're a priest also, am
Yes,
I
yes.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So so ultimately, if you say that the divine is in everybody, whether it's a child or anybody, then how do you hear that beauty in them? So when they are asking for food, or they're asking for their video game, or they're asking for, don't go and leave this job and don't go out, they're all looking for something beautiful, which is the need. So so when somebody dissents, if you are the one who brings a proposal and somebody dissents, then you have to see what is the need behind this person's dissent. And when you are on the dissenting side, you have to see what is the need that the other person is meeting by doing what they are doing while you dissent. So which means that you both need to now find a way to meet these two needs and find a way which addresses both the needs. But remember that you have to have a need literacy rather than get stuck in the strategy. So you can be creative about the strategy, but focus on the need. Does that help a little bit? I mean, it's a much bigger thing.
No, yeah, but it makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So let's go ahead,
Yes,
Shubhangi.
we'll move forward. And now we have a question from Ankurī. If you could please unmute yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, actually, I want to know that sometimes parents and children are given so much stress that parents are giving too much pressure to the child wondered how to keep the violence emotional entity on that moment. So how to control mind, yeah, feel peace on that moment. This is the question.
So you are saying something in Shubhangi and others, you can help me. You're
Uh,
saying that sometimes there's a pressure from the parents on
yeah,
the
so
children to perform.
she's trying to say that what about the parents' I'm reading her actual question.
Yeah.
What about the parents' concern when parents are not understanding their children or young adults? So how to control the mental pressure during those times?
So the mental pressure that the children face.
Yeah, the mental pressure that the children face.
Great. So I'm so glad that there are parents in this session. So I think we need to, there are two answers to this. One is that what can parents do? Another is what can children do? I guess children, it's going to be more difficult for them. But I think parents need to first understand that the need behind, the difference between the need and the strategy. So they have to focus on the need, and let the child understand your need first rather than the strategy, you know. And because your need is always beautiful, nobody can judge your need. And the need would be care, need would be safety, need would be, sustainability. As you know, the child, you want them to earn money, take care of themselves, self-care. So that's what you want. And only things that you have a belief system that after doing 12th exam and doing a medical or a doctor or an MBA or a bank service, that's going to give that security. So you have, so basically parents also responding to the how society is structured. If the society is structured in a way that security comes from this, but I would say that's just one way. If your child is able to deal with if your child's emotional intelligence is high, I think that's also something very valuable. Because your child could be successful, but if they are not able to deal with these things, that could still be not a great idea. So how do you, so first of all, as parents, you have to think, what are the values that you want to give your child, which you see them, that they're going to make them safe. So I would want you to think about like emotional intelligence, interpersonal communication, dealing with challenges, conflict resolution. So there are many things that are valuable, but we are constantly focusing on either the marks or the salary, and we have seen that model. It doesn't work, all the time. So for me, my guidance to the parents would be to focus on the needs and try to see that what the world that you were living in and now the children are living is very different. You can't use a phone maybe, or you can't use the phone as much as your child can use, and they know the whole different world which you may not know. So I guess the world is so also having curiosity and listening to the child, where are they coming from, what is it they want, what are their needs. So I guess the answer is, whether it's for parenting or whether it's in workspace, how do we look at what each person's needs are, that's the one thing. And as a child, this Ankuri, I really appreciate this question, because if you start thinking on this, you are gonna, maybe if you can also act on it, and I'm sharing my number and you can reach out and we can do more on that on the WhatsApp group. But if you can able to work on it, you will be educating your parents, you will be bringing a new life to your parents, and maybe they'll be able to deal with their challenges also better, so yeah, so how, if you can, again the answer was that if you can start seeing their needs. And one very useful thing that can help you, if you can reflect back or empathize, which means when your parents say that I want you to study and otherwise, you're going to be totally useless. So one way is that you can check with them that, oh, mom, is it that you want me to be safe? And they say, yeah, I really want you to be safe, but you never get it, So at least if you can start hearing them. And then other part is to be honest. And it's a very big question that you asked. You will need more work and strength on that and skills. But you can start with sharing your needs, listening to their needs, making clear requests. So I'm just in awe with this question that you have brought. And
Very, thank you for your answer. I'm really glad to listening to your answer. It's really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So moving on, we have one more question, and the question is from Tinker. So if you could please unmute yourself.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I wanted to know that when we have located somebody's need, for example, if I see that somebody has a need to connect, the person is very isolated, and that isolation is bringing a lot of trouble in his life in a way where he's getting into, he's trying to find an escape through drugs or, alcohol. And in that case, when I try to connect, the person is not really able to accept that he has those needs, because maybe he interprets his needs as a sign of weakness. So how do I kind of um, you know
So you said that they have a need for connection,
yes,
but when I ask them and help them, they don't like it because they see it as a sign of weakness.
yes,
So when somebody you think or you judge has a sign of weakness, then what is their need? So they have two set of needs. One could be connection, and there's another need hidden behind this. I don't want to be seen as weak.
right,
What do they want?
both.
What is the both? What is the need behind it? I don't want to be seen as a weak is a sentence, but what is the need hidden behind it? What do they need? When you don't want to be seen as weak, you want to be seen as strong.
Yeah.
And when you want to be seen as strong, you want to be kind of respected, or you want your autonomy to be respected, or I'm just guessing, maybe others can help. But when you want to be seen as strong,
Accepted also, maybe.
great, yeah, accepted, and also to be heard, because
Yeah.
because they also want to be heard, and this is what I want. So they have two set of needs. And again, it's your judgment of the need. So maybe you can check with them. First of all, maybe they don't have a need for connection, but I guess everybody has a need for connection, but it's not in the priority, or maybe it's in the priority. But try to focus on, basically, whenever some judgment comes, whenever some action comes, try to, like a Google translator, see the needs behind it.
Yeah.
So these days in Instagram, if anybody says anything which I find it difficult, it's mostly I try to see their needs behind. So even though I may argue with them, but I don't have so much blame for them. So try to address this other need, and how and how you can do it in such a way that they feel safe. Does
Okay.
that make sense in any way?
Kind of. So I am just trying to, I mean, when this happens in the real life situation, what happens is the other person gets so violent, or not violent exactly, but so rigid to not like let me in or let me speak at all.
Yeah.
Where it becomes very tough for me to address the other person's needs or realize what the person needs. So in such a situation, is it suggested that I should just move away, and maybe I am not the right person?
I would suggest that you need support in that situation.
Okay.
You need support to be heard by somebody. You need support where somebody can guide you. But first, you need to understand and accept that the situation is very high, demanding a higher skill from you. And if you have a higher skill and you jump into fire, it's not easy. But you can appreciate that you want to change the world, you want to care for people. So enjoy your need. Enjoy that you want to support people, you want to contribute, you want to offer gifts to people, you want to build connection, you want to see a beautiful world. Do you see that what I'm saying?
Yes.
So first, enjoy your needs. Do you enjoy, Tinker, that you that whatever you are offering is a gift to the world?
Yes.
Can I hear a yes which is more louder?
Yes.
So you celebrate it first, even if you're not able to meet that need. Even if you're not able to find a strategy.
Yeah.
So that's so beautiful. Like so many people who make strides, who are pioneers, who do have tasks which are very difficult. So yeah, but if you have a task like a hero's journey, what they say, if you have a task which is really high level challenge, then you have find allies, you find learning, So I can tell you that you can reach out to the group which I said, and you can ask questions, and and that we can see the long term, read books, and you can find other modalities. You can find many ways of in this world. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, this is very helpful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions, everyone. That was the last question for the evening. And for the questions that have not been answered yet, because the chat box was flooded with responses, you have Mr. Shami's number, and you can follow his page on Instagram as well, and you can connect with him there. And if your questions are unanswered, I tried to cover as much as I could. And if they're unanswered, then you can contact him. His contact number is in the chat box. So moving forward, this almost brings us towards the end of the session. First of all, sir, I would like to say that your whole approach of explaining every little thing with so much detail, I absolutely loved it and enjoyed moderating this session and listening to it as well. So thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for joining us.
And I also enjoyed it. Before we close, can we hear one or two people? We still have 3 minutes left.
Yes, before...
You have a closing round? You want to do something?
Yeah, before closing, I would just like you to tell people about the cause that we are working for.
Sure,
and
sure. You can take your time.
encourage them to donate.
Okay, great. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm very grateful. I enjoyed the excitement, and thanks, Joel, for inviting me. I would want to be more on these calls, and please, see that I've signed up with you guys, and I'm happy to be on any other topics that you want to bring on self-management, sustainability, or whatever, or an NVC and different nuances of it. So I really loved it. I'm happy to see so many people here, and that this voice is reaching and impacting and supporting all of you. And much grateful, especially grateful to the parents who want to create a beautiful world, who had really taken extra steps, as compared to earlier generations. I would say, no judgment, but yeah, that's really beautiful. And yeah, much grateful. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Shubhangi, for moderating it, also holding the space and reminding me to move from one place to the other, because I could have got lost. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And just before that, everyone, we have 2 more sessions coming up. So this Independence Day, DIRS, the Department of Interreligious Studies, is organizing a Kavi Sammelan. And you can be a part of that. The link is there in the chat box. And the next session for Wisdom Wednesdays, which will be the 5th session, we have it on 19th of August. And for that, we have the co-founder of Interplay. She's coming from the US. She's in the US right now. She can't come, but she will be hosting it from there. So we have the co-founder of Interplay. And the topic for that session will be playfulness in daily life, how we can inculcate playfulness in our daily lives in these dull times. So that will be a very creative and fun session. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, sir, for this insightful session.
Great. Thanks a lot, everybody here.